Okay, so hello, my friends. Here, Charlie from Base Miami. And as you know, this is our video series where we're discussing everything related to expansion into the US market. And today we'll have a chat with Tatiana Johnson, who's the CEO at Marketing Venture. It's an international marketing consultancy known for transforming marketing spend into capital. And Tatiana is a recognized figure in the media for her smart growth frameworks and also for successfully positioning disruptive companies during her career. With the launches, for example, of Facebook, Spotify, Teads, Sony Pictures Entertainment to the US and Latin American region. So Tatiana is also an avid reader and writer, and she's a contributor for Roast Brief, Marketers by Ad Latina, MIT Sloan Review, Produ, Insider Latam, and Revista Neo. And you see that I'm reading some of this because I don't remember all by heart. So, but Tatiana, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Charlie, and thank you, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
Awesome. So then let me start by saying that as an award-winning growth marketer, and you have the track record for successfully positioning very disruptive companies during your career. So with COVID-19, you know that many startups have suffered significant hits, and you have a concept that is the anti-fragile concept. Can you explain that and how it can benefit for them going forward?
Absolutely. It's the perfect timing to learn more about what we introduce as the Antifragile Roadmap, which is based on a book written by Nassim Taleb. So he originally introduced the concept of anti-fragile in his book. He's a recognized author, wonderful financial wizard. I really recommend his books. And the anti-fragile per Taleb thrives on randomness, uncertainty, stressors, errors, and time, because it gains from it. So in order to withstand impact and thrive on volatility, a company must really strive for the opposite, anti-fragility. And we can take China as a prime example for that, right? Just looking at how the GDP is expected to rise in 2021 and how it was the only country to grow in 2020. They also became the #1 country for foreign investment. So it really shows that it's possible to transform chaos into profits. And the importance of anti-fragility is that this is one of the models that we incorporate into our smart growth frameworks. And 2020 was really the year that it certainly paid off. It received a lot of attention from our clients, and that's how we started sharing through columns and webinars how companies could really profit and benefit from this disorder. So we kicked off the Antifragile Roadmap with, I would say, about 10 tips that are very actionable items that companies can start implementing today. We are sharing like best practices. I'll share some quick examples, like fail fast and learn faster, how you have to fortify your moat. And sometimes you can actually grow through acquisitions. You can actually multiply also by subtracting. So cutting back any unnecessary expenses like many companies did in 2020. Also the importance of controlling your narrative, like Elon Musk did, right? While everybody was drowning in negative news, he was actually thriving with positive production numbers for Tesla, with SpaceX launching commercially. His company actually octupled in value. So there's actually benefits in controlling your narrative and also in diversifying your offering and your portfolio.
That's awesome. And question, Tatiana, because I know that your, let's say your target audience or the ideal client for you is probably a mature and maybe Fortune 500 kind of company. How do you think that this concept can apply for maybe a startup or a company that is coming from Latin America to the US? I don't know if there's a part of it that can be applied.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were many companies in Mexico that actually grew and that were in the technology side and in travel and tourism. I would be doing a disservice right now to give you a name that I'm probably gonna butcher. So I'll come back with you with that particular name, but it was one of the most successful case studies that I've seen, because it was an industry that was struggling in a
Mm-hmm.
market that is struggling,
Mm-hmm.
because there's not enough funding for technology,
Yeah.
right? That's the reality for Latin America, and that's the beauty of raising awareness and putting out as much value in content and quality and success story as we're doing today. So
Mm-hmm.
there are cases where we can apply the anti-fragile frameworks to come up on top. Like for instance, YouTube. Before YouTube was acquired by Google for more than $1 billion, right? The company
Mm-hmm.
actually was in the matchmaking industry, and they were actually using the video platform for that purpose, for matchmaking. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't for the masses like it is today. And the funny thing is that YouTube did not perform well. YouTube did not have a lot of funding, but they thrived on this discovery of how video was a key for growth. It just wasn't implemented in the right market, in the right function at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So actually they failed and they learned faster from their mistakes, and that's how they became to be the YouTube that they are today. Another example can be Dropbox. So Dropbox did not have a lot of funding either in the early stages of their launch. And they actually, the founder, he made up this demo video that he put out there without having an actual product.
Yeah.
So he garnered all this interest, he garnered all these emails, he compiled like a database that was huge in size without having funding and without having, what we would call the ABCs for a successful startup, but they came on top.
Hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, it used to be the guerrilla marketing kind of thing where you use like tools that are maybe not completely developed, but as long as it gathers the attention, and you can also, as you said, you learn faster, so you fail faster, and it's much lower cost usually to fail faster, right? Than putting a lot of prep before you launch, and then it doesn't work. So. And what? One of the things that I know that you're saying that a company can be vulnerable but not fragile. So what's the difference there?
Oh, that's a wonderful question, because it really relates to, I would say, two models that we are very familiar with. And there comes a third model that is what Nassim Taleb introduces as anti-fragile. So with anti-fragile, we have three different models. We have a fragile model, we have a robust model, and then we have the anti-fragile model. So the fragile model breaks upon impact because it's fragile. It doesn't sustain it. The robust model can withstand the impact, but it doesn't benefit. It's not gaining from it. And the anti-fragile model actually grows from this impact. It grows from the chaos. So that said, the difference between a vulnerable company and a fragile company is really how much pressure can the company sustain without breaking. So a vulnerable company may sustain the pressure, but a fragile company may succumb to it. And I mean, honestly, many companies have been tested to the greatest degrees, I would say, this year amid COVID. And my best advice is really to transform their portfolio and strategy into an anti-fragile model. So for instance, given the negative tone today in the media industry, it's the perfect opportunity to tell your success story. All we have to do really is just lose the sales angle and focus on the value. We have to get real with our consumer. That's the new reality. So I'll give you another example right now that we're living with our clients in advertising. So take Apple's privacy changes. It's something that is very sensitive in tone. We hear that Facebook is suing Apple because of these privacy changes. But it's also the perfect example because it's so negative in nature that it's the perfect platform for you to vocalize how you can turn it into a positive story, showing how your technology can benefit from this or how it can serve into the perfect alternative for targeting. It's really, for me, all about mindset.
It's funny because it happens to us here at Base. I mean, we had a really it was a great 2020 for us as a company and as a team. And sometimes I feel bad sharing that because there's so much negativity around what happened last year that it's like, well, you don't want to sound like, oh, well, maybe for you, but for us it was a great year, but what you're saying is not. It's just, yeah, go out and tell those stories because that also resonates with people, right?
Exactly, exactly. And it also paints a different picture. I mean, we all love feel good stories.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it's so hard to find because most stories are so focused on selling.
Yeah. And talking about that, and moving more to the brand side, and because I consider that today more and more what you sell is really your brand and not what you're trying to sell, and eventually your real values and what your core beliefs come out to light, and eventually I think that the consumer is also evolving in that sense that they don't buy on what they're sold anymore, but they buy when they see, that the brand has a real value behind. So, and you work a lot around brand awareness, and for especially we have this challenge with the companies that we work with because they're new to the US market and they have to establish a brand here. So, what would you say that are your go-to strategies for generating brand awareness?
Well, that's a loaded question because we have to start with the definition of brand awareness. For us, at least, brand awareness is more than just a line in your sales funnel or a line in your media budget. There's really a strategy behind it. And our smart growth frameworks incorporate that strategy at the core. So similar to art, for us, effective marketing and effective advertising will strike a chord with the consumer. So brand awareness for us is meant to make you feel something. It's not just placing your brand in the beginning of the video to ensure viewability or positioning in the right context for brand safety. Yes, that matters, but there's more to it. And our strategies for generating brand awareness contemplate the fastest and least costly way to impact you, the consumer, and pull you closer to acquisition. So our strategies for brand awareness really make the protagonist the consumer, not the brand. To your point, right? Nowadays, it's all about the consumer. It's not about your product because that's the right order of things. That's how it should be. It's putting the horse before the cart, not the other way around. And that's why I think very few people get it and why so many of us tend to get lost in the trees and we can lose sight of the real forest, That's, for instance, I think personally what sets Amazon apart from other e-commerce platforms, right? Like Bezos doesn't even see the forest. He sees like the whole jungle and from space, you know?
Yeah.
So in our case, I'm more than happy to share like some best practices of what has worked successfully using emotions, marketing spend, and consumer psychology as leverage. So one of the prime examples that I recently shared at an event actually includes Teats. So when I served as VP of Marketing LATAM at Teats, the challenge was the biggest challenge for every marketer, right? Like position the company and drive growth, all while translating the value behind Teats and their 100% viewability offering. So a small task, right? So one way I did it really was by transforming all marketing spend into revenue streams. Because the moment that we start looking at any dollars going out as an investment versus a spend, a cost, it just changes the entire picture. And one of the buckets where marketers tend to spend the most dollars would be events, right? So for us, events, I looked at it as an opportunity to really transform it into a platform to connect with the consumer, but also for the event to pay itself the same day. That was the objective at every time. And I'm really happy to say that we did it. We were able to pay off every event, so we were more than breaking even. In one occasion, we were hosting an event of site in Brazil, and the client had to actually pull out our team and say, hey, I want to invest in this campaign now, because the presentation, the results were that convincing. So that's, you know, an easy example of an event that paid itself, but there's also other opportunities where marketers could be missing out and can be activating. So for instance, like sponsorships. When we were launching 100% viewability at the beginning for Festival of Media, we actually would sponsor the event. So we would have space, we would have the brand visibility, but we took it a step further. So I got this branded selfie mirror, and we branded it. So then it said, let's talk about viewability, but first let me take a selfie. We put the selfie soundtrack on that was very popular at the time, and we transformed that space really into an experience that people would talk about, that people would take away with them, and then they would put it in their office, where you have direct contact with the brand at all times with your desired audience. So that's just like minor examples of how we can transform marketing spend into real dollars. Another example where we use psychology also involves this combination of paid media and organic media. So paid media advertising, organic media, public relations. So another example of what we did was combining both factors and playing with what we called the frequency of illusion, which is this psychology component that our brain plays on us, making us believe or making us more aware of something once we know a particular subject. So this is why pregnant women get to see more pregnant women when they're pregnant, because they're more conscious.
Yeah, when you're thinking of buying this car, then you're seeing this car all over the place. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So what we did through this powerful combination is we would tell a story, a success story. One particular example involves Tommy Hilfiger. One success story that we did with Tommy Hilfiger using chatbot, one of the advertising formats that we were selling at the time. So we put out the story. It not only had amazing traction, like media coverage in terms of articles, we got a lot of articles interested in the story, but then we also got a lot of sales interest. And not once in that media piece did we sell the product. We were communicating the solutions, and our client was telling the story for us. So not once was sales even on the table. However, we got there, right? And then the other example, in addition to that, is we ran our formats, the TEATS formats at the time, showing 100% viewability throughout stream. And here would say, you wouldn't watch half an ad, half a match. So ads should not be the same. So if you don't watch half of a soccer match, why should you just watch or see half of an ad? And just like that, that was one of the most successful campaigns that we had. And we were combining two different elements to drive that nudge, right? What Richard Thaler calls as nudge, as that little empujon that the person needs to get to that desired behavior. So we are actually, through marketing spend and through our smart work frameworks, creating that architecture of choice so that we would actually make it seem like we were everywhere, but we were really just focused on getting to the right person at the right time with the right message. So it's really like boxing, right? Where you say, I can either throw a bunch of punches, or I can make very strategic punches with the right impact, knowing exactly where to punch to make it to the finish line.
That's awesome.
Did that answer your question? It's a loaded one. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, completely. Yes. No, and I love how you have examples for everything. So it makes it very easy for one to like picture what you're saying, you know? So love it. And you know what, now moving more, there's a lot of buzz lately about Miami, especially about the entrepreneurial community. There's a lot of moving parts, and maybe we don't want to mention, but you know, that I don't know if you heard that SoftBank is opening a fund for $100 million for any startup that is in Miami or that wants to set up shop in Miami. And that's completely new, and it's really, I think, a big show of what the community is trying to build here. So maybe my question to you is, why Miami for you?
Oh, that's a big question. It's all about the community, the pool of talent, and the multicultural resources. Miami, I think it has the perfect location also if you're looking to expand outside of Latin America and even launch into the US Hispanic audience or connect to the rest of Europe. One of the particular areas of opportunities, if I can be honest with you, in terms of what I see in Miami, is if we apply the anti-fragile concept itself. So one of the things that I see Latin America having as a weakness is actually the stagnant growth for technology companies.
Mm-hmm.
Where in Miami, you actually have the fast lane to grow your company. And you can use Spanish or you can use English. It really is the perfect gateway to also have the resources that you have in terms of the talent. In Latin America, you may have the talent, but you may have to struggle a little bit more. Whereas here in Miami, I find it that it's already set up for you in a way because of all the previous years of building this community. So just to give you two interesting numbers that I think will raise awareness into why Miami and why now is look at the stock market itself, right? Here in the United States, the stock market has grown companies like Mercado Libre, right, in 3 times the value. Whereas in the rest of Latin America, really, if you compare the market cap of technology companies to the GDP, it's really minuscule. So in the United States, the market cap for technology companies compared to the GDP is 39%. Compared to China, 27%. Whereas Latin America, it's about 2.2%.
Oh.
So there's a lot of room for growth. And there's also, I think, you know, your fast lane to grow. If you want to go from the 2% pool to the 39% pool, Miami is that place, especially after the financial incentives that you just mentioned.
Yeah. So and great. And one last question that I always ask when you know that this our audience is mainly Latin founders or entrepreneurs that are thinking of coming to the US and especially to Miami. What would be if you had to give, you know, one advice for them?
Don't think it twice. Follow your gut, go with your instinct, do your research and come to Miami. I mean, you have the talent, you have the funding. Funding right now is so crucially important, particularly during the pandemic. And it shows research from numbers from CB Insights and Atlantico both suggest that amid this pandemic, investment hasn't stopped. It in fact has skyrocketed. It's just that it's going to tech and it's going to the countries, the markets where the opportunities present themselves for fast growth. So Miami definitely has all the things off the checklist.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much for this. It's been a pleasure talking to you and amazing all the knowledge you have to share. So, and thank you for sharing some of it with us. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you next time.
Oh, thank you, Charlie. It's always fun. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Tatiana. We'll see you later.